In the front office line, the counselor asked me to step into the hallway and kept her hand on a printed pickup sheet while other parents watched. Dad's girlfriend. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. The words sat in the space between us like a dropped cup that hadn't hit the tile yet. I stopped with 1 foot half turned toward the double doors, my purse strap digging into my shoulder. Behind the glass, the office printer hummed. A dad in a work vest shifted his weight and stared at the bulletin board like it suddenly had instructions for how to stand. The counselor, Miss Hart, kept her fingers flat on the paper, like it could slide away if she didn't pin it down. The pickup sheet was folded once, creased hard, with names highlighted in yellow. My name was there. My daughter's teacher was walking kids down the hallway in pairs, little sneakers squeaking, backpacks bouncing. Miss Hart tilted her head toward the side hall, where the trophy case ran along the wall. "Just for a second," she said, quieter than the reception bell. "I moved with her because that's what you do in a school hallway at 3:12 p.m. You don't argue. You don't make a scene. You don't give people a reason to remember your face." She stopped under the framed class photos. The fluorescent light made everything look a little too clean. She still held the pickup sheet. I noticed a pen clipped to her lanyard, the kind with the school name printed on it. Her badge bumped gently against her sweater when she took a breath. "Your daughter mentioned her father," she said, and then she glanced at the paper again like it was backing her up. And she mentioned a person by name. I kept my phone in my hand, screen dark. My thumb hovered over nothing. "Okay," I managed, because the alternative was asking the wrong question too loudly. "Miss." Hart's eyes flicked toward the front office window. I could see the receptionist looking up, pretending not to. "I want to be careful here," she said. "We're not making accusations. We're making sure your daughter feels safe and clear." Safe and clear. Those were school words. They meant forms. They meant notes. They meant that whatever this was, it had already started moving without my permission. I heard my daughter's laugh down the hall, sharp and bright, like she was fine, like none of this mattered. Miss Hart lowered the pickup sheet to her side but didn't let go of it. She said, "Dad's girlfriend helps at school sometimes." I felt my mouth try to shape a response and fail. I pressed my tongue to my teeth and swallowed. My fingers tightened around my phone until the edge bit into my palm. "Helps," I repeated, because it was a word I could hold on to without breaking. She nodded once. She used a first name. I'm not going to say it out here. Her gaze stayed steady, professional, but it's a name staff would recognize. That part landed differently. Staff would recognize. Not just a random woman, not just a person from a dating app, someone with a place here, someone with a badge or a sign-in sticker, someone who knew where the copier was. A teacher walked by with a stack of construction paper and gave us a polite smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Miss." Hart waited until the teacher passed, then stepped a little closer to keep our voices contained. "Can I ask you something?" she said. I nodded, even though my stomach was already trying to fold in on itself. "Who is she to the school?" Miss Hart asked. "And who is she to your daughter?" Before I could answer, the receptionist's voice carried from the front office. "Miss Lane? She's ready." "My daughter." "Miss." Hart's hand tightened on that pickup sheet again, and she added, like she was reading the next step from an invisible checklist, "I'd like to set up a meeting. Tomorrow, if possible." By 6:18 the next morning, the meeting was already on my calendar. I was standing barefoot in my kitchen, a cereal bowl in the sink, when my laptop chimed and a new email slid to the top. The subject line was clean and polite. "Follow up. Student support meeting request. Today." I clicked it with my thumb still damp from rinsing a spoon. Miss Hart's message was short, bullet point neat. She referenced student language about adult figures, asked that both parents attend to a line, and listed next steps like it was a fire drill. Conference room B, 2:45 p.m. Bring identification. Expect an administrator present. At the bottom was the line that made my stomach tighten again. Please reply to confirm who Dad's girlfriend is in relation to the school. It's us is about looks to do Evan 90. I didn't reply. I set the laptop lid down halfway, like I could lower the volume of the whole thing by closing it. Then I turned my phone face down on the counter and stared at the small crack in the laminate near the toaster. My daughter patted in, hair sticking up on one side, pajama shirt twisted. She opened the fridge and pulled out the milk like nothing in the world had shifted. "Do I have counseling today?" she asked, not looking at me. "You tell me," I said. She shrugged and poured too fast. Milk splashed the rim of her cup. "Miss Hart said I can come whenever." I watched her hands small. "Sure," not shaking. "What did you talk about yesterday?" I asked. She took a sip and blinked at the cold. "Stuff." "Like what stuff?" She rolled her eyes in a way that didn't feel like her. Then she said it, flat and practiced, like a line she'd rehearsed in the back seat. "Dad said you're gonna make it a big deal. Don't like the Condresses in Remember." The words didn't sound like an 8-year-old's. They sounded like a grown man trying to keep a lid on a pot. I picked up my phone. My finger hovered over his name. I didn't want to text. Texting meant he could ignore me. Texting meant he could screenshot me later. But it was 6:27 a.m., and I needed something in writing that I didn't start. I typed, "Why is the counselor calling me about your girlfriend?" The bubbles popped up right away, then disappeared, then popped up again. His reply came in 2 lines. "You're misunderstanding. Don't drag the school into our issues." I stared at the screen until the letters stopped looking like words. Then I wrote back, "Is she involved at the school? Yes or no?" This time he took longer. "She helps sometimes. It's not your business." Not your business. About our kid. About her school. About a woman helping sometimes, where my daughter spent most of her weekday life. I didn't answer. I set the phone down. Face down again. At 2:41 p.m., I signed in at the front office with a pen chained to the counter. The receptionist slid a visitor sticker toward me without eye contact. The plastic badge felt warm when I pressed it onto my sweater. Miss Hart met me by the trophy case and led me into her office. A small room with a round table, 2 chairs, and a third chair angled slightly back like it was waiting for someone important. A box of tissues sat untouched beside a stack of file folders. My daughter was already there. She sat with her knees tucked up, sneaker soles tapping the chair rung. Her legs swung in a steady rhythm, and the chair made a soft scrape each time she shifted. Miss Hart had a yellow legal pad open, pen poised, not writing yet. "Hi, sweetheart," I said. My daughter gave me a quick look, then looked at the carpet. Miss Hart motioned to the chair across from my daughter. I sat, palms on my thighs, keeping my posture neat like I was in a job interview. The door clicked shut behind me. "Thank you for coming," Miss Hart said, and her voice had that careful calm again. "Before we start, I want to outline what the school does when a child mentions changes at home." She slid a paper across the table, school letterhead, a few paragraphs, a signature line, procedure, policy, the kind of thing that turned a sentence in a hallway into a file. "We document," she said. "We ask clarifying questions. We make sure adults interacting on campus are appropriate and known." My daughter's foot kept swinging. Tap, tap, tap. Miss Hart's eyes lifted to mine. "And because a name was used," she said, "I need to ask directly." She paused, just long enough for the air to feel heavier. "That name," she said, lowering her voice, "has come up here before." The next morning, the drop-off line moved like it always did, slow, polite, trapped. I pulled up behind a silver Subaru with a Honor student sticker crooked on the bumper. The clock on my dash said 7:46. My daughter's backpack sat upright in the passenger seat, straps twisted like it had been grabbed in a hurry. "Can you zip my lunch?" she said, holding the insulated bag out without looking at me. I slid the zipper closed. The metal teeth caught for a second, then gave. I handed it back and watched her fingers tighten around the handle. At the crosswalk, the crossing guard lifted her stop sign. Kids streamed toward the doors. Teachers stood with coffee cups and laminated lanyards, smiling at names they knew. My daughter paused on the sidewalk and turned back. "Dad said he might come to the thing," she said. "What thing?" I asked. She shrugged like she'd already decided it wasn't worth explaining. "The family night. Family night." The words sounded normal until they didn't. A volunteer mom I recognized, Angela, always in leggings, always with a clipboard, waved at my daughter. "Morning, honey," she called. Then her eyes flicked to me. Quick, like she was checking if I'd heard. My daughter walked off, didn't wave back. I waited until I was back in my car to pick up my phone. My hands were steady enough to unlock it, not steady enough to scroll. I typed, "What did you tell her to say yesterday?" He responded fast, like he'd been holding his phone already. "Stop. Do not contact the school. You're making this a problem." The sentence hit with the flatness of a command. No question mark. No room for a reply that mattered. I took a screenshot. Not because I planned to show it to anyone right then, because I didn't trust myself to remember it correctly later. At 12:03, my phone buzzed again while I was loading groceries into my trunk. A bag of apples rolled against the spare tire well. I tapped the screen with the side of my thumb. Also, don't talk to Hart again. He didn't use Miss, he didn't use the counselor. Just Hart. Like she was a coworker. Like he'd said her name out loud before. I slid the groceries forward and shut the trunk harder than I meant to. The metal latched with a clean final click. At 3:07, I was back in the pickup line. Same curb, same orange cones, same cluster of parents half watching, half scrolling. My daughter came out with her class, hair tucked behind one ear, a paper turkey craft bent at the edge. She climbed into the car and buckled herself, straps snapping. "Did Miss Hart talk to you today?" I asked as I pulled away. She stared out the window. She asked if I feel safe. "Do you?" "Yeah." She said it fast. Then, softer, like she didn't mean to add it, she asked about Tara. There it was. A name. Simple, not dramatic. The kind of name you could hear in a waiting room and not turn your head. I kept my eyes on the road. My hands stayed at 10 and 2 like I was taking a driving test. "What did you say?" I asked. My daughter picked at the corner of her craft. "That she helps sometimes." "Dad said she helps." "Helps where?" "At school." She finally looked at me, and her face tightened, like she'd been told this part wasn't supposed to be hard. Like with the stuff. Like the copies. Copies. The copier. The back workroom. The places parents don't go unless they belong there. When we got home, she ran inside and dropped her shoes by the door like always. I stayed in the car with the engine off, the key still in the ignition. I opened the school's weekly newsletter on my phone, the one I usually skimmed while stirring pasta. I scrolled slower this time, reading every thank you line. At the bottom, under volunteers, there was a list of first names. I read them once. Then again, and there it was, Tara. No last name, just the same clean, harmless name my daughter had said in the car. My screen dimmed. I tapped it awake and stared until the letters stopped feeling like they belonged on a school email. That night, after my daughter fell asleep with her reading light still on, I sat at the kitchen table with my phone and the school newsletter open again. The house was quiet in that way it only gets after 8 dishwasher humming, heater clicking, the faint buzz of the fridge. I pushed a stack of permission slips aside and pulled the salt shaker closer like it could anchor me. I searched the school's Facebook page first, then the PTA page, then the Instagram account the office lady had once told me to follow for cute updates. My thumb kept scrolling past smiling kids and seasonal crafts until I hit a post from 2 weeks ago. Volunteer appreciation. Thank you for supporting our families. There were 4 photos in a carousel. In the first one, I saw the multi-purpose room. Folding tables. A banner taped a little crooked. A line of adults wearing lanyards with white name tags. In the second one, there he was. Not looking at the camera, looking down at a clipboard, like he belonged there. And beside him, close enough that their shoulders almost touched, was a woman with straight brown hair pulled into a low ponytail. She had a volunteer lanyard, too. The name tag was turned just enough that I could read it when I pinched the screen and zoomed in. Tara. I didn't breathe for a second. I just held the phone steady over the table. In the background, a teacher I recognized, Mrs. Keene, was smiling at someone off frame, her hand on a stack of blank badges. The whole scene looked normal, warm, organized, and my daughter had been saying it like it was normal. I hit screenshot. The little flash animation felt loud in the quiet kitchen. Then I clicked into the caption. Someone in the comments had tagged a few volunteers. My eyes scanned the names until I saw his first name, and a reply beneath it from an account that looked like a personal page, a profile picture with the same brown ponytail. Happy to help. I set the phone down and stared at my own hands. They were flat on the table like I was trying to keep myself from floating up. I didn't call him right away. I stood, walked to the sink, and rinsed the same glass twice. I dried it, put it away, took it back out. The routine didn't fix anything, but it kept me from doing something loud. When I finally picked up my phone again, I didn't type a paragraph. I typed one sentence. I saw the school post. I saw you with Tara. He called instead of texting. His voice came through sharp and controlled, like he'd stepped into a hallway himself. "What are you doing?" he said. "I'm asking you," I said, keeping my voice even. I stood by the back door, my fingers wrapped around the metal handle like I needed something solid. "Why are you at her school with her?" A pause. I could hear traffic behind him, a turn signal clicking. You're stalking my life through the PTA page now? I followed the page because it's my kid's school, I said. She said Tara helps there. I found her. That's not me making things up. He let out a short laugh that didn't have humor in it. This is exactly why I don't tell you anything. You turn everything into a scene. I'm not making a scene, I said, and my grip on the door handle tightened until my knuckles went pale. I'm asking for basic clarity. You want clarity? He snapped. Here, Tara's a friend. She volunteers. The school doesn't care. Stop dragging them into your drama. My stomach clenched at the word drama like he'd been practicing it, like he'd already used it on someone else. I didn't argue with the label. I didn't defend myself. I just said, okay, and ended the call before he could keep going. The quiet afterward felt thin. Too clean. I walked back to the table, opened the Notes app, and started a list. Dates, times, screenshots, who said what. Not because I wanted a fight, because I was done trying to win a conversation. At 9:14 p.m., my daughter's backpack sat by the couch. I opened the front pocket to check for homework, and a glossy flyer slid out onto the rug. Family night next week. All families welcome. There was a volunteer sign-up link at the bottom, and in small print, right under questions, was a name. Contact, Tara M. The next day, my daughter brought home a crumpled supply list that smelled like glue sticks and cafeteria pizza. I flattened it on the counter with the heel of my hand while the microwave beeped behind me. The paper had little boxes next to each item, 2 packs of pencils, 1 box of tissues. Disinfecting wipes like the school could keep order by turning everything into a checklist. At the bottom, in bold, it said, Family night sign up to help. There was a QR code printed crooked, like it had been copied one too many times. My daughter set her shoes by the door and walked straight to the table. She reached for the flyer with the same casual confidence she'd had with the milk yesterday. Can Tara come next time? She asked. I didn't answer right away. I picked up a pencil and sharpened it at the little hand crank sharpener we kept for homework. The blade caught, then released. A clean curl of wood fell into the clear compartment. Next time for what? I asked, keeping my voice level. She shrugged, already digging in her backpack for a folder. Like, when we do stuff here, Dad said she likes family night. I set the pencil down. My phone was still face down on the counter where I'd left it that morning, like it might burn me if I looked too directly. I turned it over anyway and opened the calendar app, just to see the date. Family night, Thursday. 4 days away. Who told you to ask me that? I said. She made a face like I'd asked her to solve a math problem. Nobody. She said she helps. She said, I repeated. My daughter's eyes slid to the side, toward the living room where the TV was off. Dad said it's fine, she added. Then she reached for the peanut butter jar, twisted the lid, and started spreading it too thick on bread like her hands needed something to do. I watched her. I watched the way she didn't look at me while she said it. Okay, I said, and the word came out small, not agreement. Just a way to keep the kitchen from turning into a courtroom. When she went to her room, I picked up the supply list again and scanned it like I was hunting for a typo. The QR code sat there, square and innocent. I grabbed my keys and went back out to my car. The air had that early fall bite, sharp enough to make you stand up straighter. I sat in the driver's seat with the door closed and the phone balanced on my thigh. The steering wheel was cool under my palms. I didn't call him. I didn't text. I opened Google Maps. Then I opened the timeline. I told myself it was just to confirm something simple, like whether I was remembering the date wrong, like maybe I'd mixed up Thursday nights. His location history loaded in a thin blue line over the map, red pins, little timestamps. I scrolled to the day he'd laughed at me on the phone and said I was stalking his life. That day, he'd told me he was at work late, at 6:30:42 pose. The pin dropped right on the school. At 7:19 p.m., it was still there. I zoomed in until the map showed the parking lot shape, the curve of the curb where the cones went for pickup. My thumb shook once, just enough that I had to recenter it. I took a screenshot. The shutter sound was off, but my body still reacted like it was loud. I opened the QR code scanner next, held the supply list up in front of the phone camera. The little square snapped into focus, and a link popped up. Volunteers sign up family night. I tapped it. A page loaded with a list of roles and time slots. Setup crew, welcome table, food line. Each had a name, field, and a checkbox. Halfway down the page, I saw it. Volunteer Coordinator, Tara M. Not a rumor, not a friend, a role. My finger hovered over the coordinator name like I could press it and make more information appear. It didn't. A car pulled into the driveway behind me, my neighbor coming home from a shift, headlights sweeping over my windshield. I lowered the phone to my lap and sat still until the lights passed. Then I looked again. Thursday. 5:30 p.m. Tara M. Listed under Welcome Table. I stared at that line until my eyes started to blur. Then I wiped my thumb across the screen like I could erase it. Inside the house, my daughter's laugh drifted from her room, muffled by the wall. Normal life, still happening. I took one more screenshot, tucked the supply list into my purse like it was evidence, and started the car. On the drive to work, my phone buzzed once with a school notification. Reminder. Family night sign-in starts at 5:45. I didn't open it. I just tightened my grip on the wheel and kept going, already knowing exactly where I'd be Thursday evening and exactly who would be standing at the welcome table when I walked in. On Wednesday night, I laid my daughter's clothes out on the end of her bed like I was packing for a trip we weren't excited about. Jeans, a clean long-sleeve shirt, the shoes she could get on without a fight. I smoothed the fabric with my palm, then opened her drawer again and switched the shirt for a softer one, like that would change how Thursday would feel. At the kitchen table, my laptop sat open beside the family night flyer. The glossy paper kept curling at the corners, so I held it down with my car keys. My inbox refreshed. A new message came in from an address that ended in the school's domain. The subject line wasn't dramatic, it was worse than dramatic. Volunteer Orientation Coordinator, Details Family Night. I clicked. It was an email thread, the kind that shows replies stacked on top of each other. At the top was a school staff member confirming roles and time slots. Under that was a forwarded calendar invite. Volunteer Orientation Family Night. Coordinator. Tara M. RSVP. Yes. Her email was right there, her full last initial, a phone number listed for day of questions. The thread even included a line about where volunteers should park. I didn't realize I was holding my breath until I exhaled and felt the air scrape my throat. I printed it, not because I wanted to wave it around, because paper didn't vanish when someone tried to rewrite the day later. The printer whirred and spit out 2 pages. I stacked them neatly, then slid them into a manila folder I'd taken from the junk drawer. The folder still had a grocery store coupon tucked in the pocket, like life was insisting on being normal. My phone buzzed with a text from him. "You gonna show up and cause a scene?" I stared at it. My thumb hovered, then moved like it belonged to someone calmer than me. "I will be there for our daughter. Do not involve Tara with her at school events." 1 sentence. No explanation. No argument. His reply came back in under a minute. "Lol. You can't control who's around." I didn't respond. I set the phone down, screen up, and watched the message sit there like spit on a sidewalk. In my daughter's room, I heard her dresser drawer open and close. Then her small feet padded down the hall. "Can I have a snack?" she asked, already reaching for the pantry. I pulled out a bag of pretzels and poured them into a bowl. The plastic crinkled too loud in the quiet. "Hey," I said gently, like I was stepping on thin ice. "Tomorrow at family night, if you see Tara, what do you do?" My daughter froze with a pretzel halfway to her mouth. Her eyes shifted to the side. Not to me, not to the bowl, to the wall. "Dad said she'll be at the table," she said. "At the welcome table?" I asked, even though I already knew. She nodded. Her jaw worked like she was chewing without eating. "He said I should be nice," she added, and then she said the next part fast, like she wanted it out of her body. He said, "You get weird." I didn't correct her. Not out loud. I just picked up the bowl, carried it to the table, and set it down with more care than a bowl of pretzels deserved. After she went back to her room, I sat at the table and opened my folder again. The printed email looked official in a way my life hadn't felt in weeks. I pictured the multi-purpose room, folding chairs, the welcome table, a lanyard around Tara's neck, my daughter walking in with her backpack straps crooked. Then I pictured myself walking in behind her, with parents watching, teachers smiling, and someone deciding what my face meant. My phone buzzed again. This time it was an email notification from Miss Hart. I clicked without thinking. "One more thing," it read. "If you can, please stay after family night for a brief check-in. I'd like you there for support. Thursday came with a cold drizzle that made the school parking lot smell like wet mulch and car exhaust. I pulled into a spot near the far fence because the closer rows were already full. Parents in hoodies hustled toward the entrance with foil trays balanced in both hands. Someone's minivan hatch was open, and a stack of paper plates slid forward like it wanted to escape. My daughter jumped out before I could even kill the engine. "Come on," she said, bouncing on the balls of her feet. She had her backpack on even though it was night. She'd insisted, like it made her feel prepared. Inside, the front hallway was louder than it ever was at pickup. Shoes squeaked, the fluorescent lights buzzed, the air smelled like pizza and hand sanitizer. A folding sign pointed toward the multipurpose room. Family night. I kept my phone in my hand, screen dark. My keys were looped around my finger. My daughter grabbed my sleeve and tugged me forward. The welcome table was set up just past the doorway, a long cafeteria table covered in butcher paper. There were stacks of blue wristbands, Sharpies in a coffee cup, and a clipboard with a sign-in sheet taped down. A volunteer mom I didn't know was tearing tickets from a roll. And then I saw the lanyard. White badge, plastic sleeve, the kind that sits flat on a chest when the person wearing it stands still. Tara. Her hair was pulled back, same low ponytail as the photo. She was smiling at a dad in a baseball cap, handing him wristbands like she'd done it 100 times. Her badge bumped gently against her sweater when she leaned forward. My daughter's hand tightened on my sleeve. "Hi," Tara said, bright and automatic, looking down at the clipboard. "Last name?" My daughter didn't answer. She glanced past Tara, toward the room, like she was trying to spot her class. I said our last name, because the line behind us was already forming, and people were watching the clipboard like it was a boarding pass. Tara found us on the sheet and drew a clean check mark. Her nail tapped the paper once. "Great," she said. "2 wristbands?" She reached for the stack. I took them from her hand. The thin plastic stuck to my fingers for a second. I slid one over my daughter's wrist and smoothed it down. She didn't look at Tara. She didn't look at me either. The volunteer mom next to Tara leaned over and whispered, "That table is for 2nd grade." Her eyes flicked to Tara's badge, then away. I guided my daughter into the multipurpose room. Folding chairs were set in crooked rows near the stage. Long tables held pizza boxes with the lids half open, steam fogging the air above them. Teachers stood in clusters, holding paper cups, talking too loudly over the noise. My daughter darted toward her friends near a poster board display. I stayed near the wall, next to a table of raffle baskets wrapped in clear cellophane. A basket labeled Family Movie Night had a red blanket stuffed inside and a gift card taped to the front. I pretended to read the labels. I adjusted my purse strap. I folded the wristband paper backing into a small square and slipped it into my pocket like it mattered. Then the front doors opened again. I didn't have to turn right away. I felt it in the room, the slight pause, the way a few heads tilted in the same direction. He walked in like he belonged there. My ex wore a clean jacket and that practiced smile he used at parent-teacher conferences. He held the door for someone behind him. Tara. She stepped in beside him, lanyard already on, badge swinging lightly. Not at the welcome table anymore. In the room. In the center of it, my ex's hand hovered near the small of her back, not touching, but close enough to mean something. Close enough for anyone watching to decide what story they wanted. He spotted me near the raffle baskets. His smile held for half a second too long. "Hey," he said, loud enough for the teacher next to him to hear. "See? This is fine." I didn't answer. I picked up my phone and set it face down on the raffle table. The plastic covering crinkled under my palm. I kept my hand there. Tara's eyes flicked to me, then away, like she'd been warned not to make it obvious. A teacher, Mrs. Keene, walked past carrying a stack of paper plates and slowed when she saw my ex and Tara together. Her smile faltered. She kept walking. My daughter looked up from her friends and froze for a second, her body still, like she was waiting to see what I would do. I didn't move. I didn't speak. Miss Hart appeared at my side so quietly I almost didn't notice her. She held a manila folder against her hip, fingers wrapped around the edge. "Can you step into the hall with me?" she asked. And before I could answer, she added, low and careful, "A report was filed today." Miss Hart didn't take me back into the room. She guided me down the side hallway where the trophy case lights made everything look like it was on display. Her manila folder stayed tucked against her hip. Mine stayed empty. That difference felt loud. We stopped near a drinking fountain with a paper towel jammed in the dispenser like someone had yanked it too hard. I could still hear the multipurpose room behind us laughter, a microphone squeal, the thud of chairs being dragged across the floor. "A report was filed today," Miss Hart repeated, quieter this time. I kept my eyes on the folder. "About what?" I asked. She held my gaze, then glanced toward the doorway as if checking whether anyone was listening. "Not a police report," she said. "A school report. A documentation note." The words sounded clean. Like bleach. "Who filed it?" I asked. Miss Hart didn't answer directly. She shifted the folder in her arms and slid one sheet out just enough for the school letterhead to show. "It's related to adult communication on campus," she said. "And to comments your daughter repeated in counseling." In the room behind us, someone called raffle numbers. Parents clapped in that polite way, like they were doing what was expected. I felt my phone buzz in my pocket. I didn't take it out. I kept my hands still at my sides, fingers pressed into my jeans. Miss Hart lowered her voice another notch. "I asked the front office to flag the situation for administration," she said, "because when a child uses adult language about one parent, she said I get weird." I cut in, and the phrase came out flat. Miss Hart paused. "Yes," she said, and there were additional details. I waited. The waiting felt like holding a door closed with my shoulder. "We're setting a conference," she said, "with an administrator present. Your daughter does not need to be there." I nodded once. "Your co-parent should attend," she added. "I figured," I said. Miss Hart's expression tightened, like she didn't love how calm I sounded. "I want to be clear," she said. "This is about maintaining stability at school, not about anyone's private life." Private life. As if Tara's badge wasn't still swinging on her chest inside that room. The door to the multipurpose room opened, and a wave of noise pushed out. A parent stepped into the hall with a paper plate and stopped short when she saw us. "Miss." Hart's posture shifted immediately, professional smile, shoulders squared. "Hi," the parent said, then looked away and kept walking. Miss Hart waited until the door shut again. "Tomorrow," she said. 2:45, conference room B. I nodded again. "I want everything in writing," I said. She blinked. "Of course. And I don't want anyone speaking to staff about me," I added, keeping my voice low. "Not through my daughter." Miss Hart's eyes held mine for a beat longer. Then she gave a small, tight nod, like she'd just checked a box. When I walked back into the multipurpose room, I kept my gaze on my daughter. She was at a table with other kids, gluing something messy to construction paper. Her elbows were sticky. Her smile looked real. My ex stood near the pizza table, talking to a teacher with his hands in his pockets. Tara was beside him, nodding like she understood the script. When he saw me, his eyes narrowed in that way that meant he wanted a reaction he could point at later. I didn't give him one. I picked up my phone from the raffle table and slipped it into my purse without turning the screen on. In the car afterward, my daughter chattered about the raffle baskets and the cupcakes. I kept answering with small sounds, "Yeah," and watched the wipers drag rain across the windshield in steady strokes. At 9:02 p.m., after she was in bed, my phone made the Parent Square notification sound. Bright. Wrong for a dark house. I opened it at the kitchen counter, the light from the screen spilling onto the flyer still curled under my keys. The message was from the main office. It wasn't long. It was worse than long. Effective immediately, all custody-related communication must be routed through the front office. Staff members may not be contacted directly regarding family matters. Please adhere to these boundaries. There was a read receipt line, and beneath it a note. This applies to all parties. I took a screenshot and slid my phone face down on the counter. Then another notification popped up, an email this time. Not from the school. From a teacher's personal address. Subject line: "I think you should see this." I didn't open the teacher's email right away. I stood at the kitchen counter with the phone in my hand, the screen lighting up the flyer under my keys, and I listened to the house settle. The heater clicked. The refrigerator made that low, steady hum. My daughter's white noise machine hissed through the wall. Then I tapped the subject line. "I think you should see this." The message was short. No greeting. No softening. I'm not supposed to be in the middle. But this was sent to the volunteer group. It includes a pickup name. There was an attachment beneath it, one PDF and a second image file. I opened the PDF first. It was an invoice from a local print shop I recognized, the one by the grocery store where people go when they need banners or last-minute posters. The logo sat in the corner. Under it, a line item list: Family Night Volunteer Badges 50 and Lanyards 50. It's not on 8 none. My eyes went straight to the pickup section. Pickup name, Tara M. Not PTA, not front office, not a school staff member. Tara. There was a date stamp. There was an order number. There was even a little note that said, paid card on file. I didn't need to know whose card it was to understand what it meant. Someone had put her in the middle of school business on purpose. Someone had made her look official. I set my phone down and opened the junk drawer. I pulled out the stapler, the roll of tape, and the manila folder I'd started the night before. I laid everything out on the table like I was prepping for a meeting at work. Then I opened the image file. A photo of a receipt, crumpled a little, taken on a counter under bright lights. I could make out print shop at the top, the same order number as the invoice, and a handwritten initial next to picked up by T.M. My throat tightened, not because it was shocking, but because it was clean, documented. The kind of thing you can't talk your way out of without sounding like you're lying. I didn't forward it to anyone. I didn't reply to the teacher. I tapped print. The printer in the hallway whirred and woke up with a mechanical sigh. One page, then another. The paper came out warm. I stacked the pages, lined the corners up against the table edge, and slid them into the folder. On top of them, I added the screenshot of his text telling me not to contact the school, then the parent square message about boundaries. The folder got thick fast. At 6:34 a.m., while my daughter ate cereal and watched cartoons too loud, I opened my laptop and drafted an email to the principal. No emotion. No accusations. Just dates and requests. I'm requesting a parent conference with administration present regarding unauthorized third-party involvement on campus and communication routed through my child. I have documentation to provide. I attached nothing. I hit send and watched the little paper airplane icon disappear like it was nothing. My phone buzzed on the table. His name? I didn't pick up. A voicemail icon popped up seconds later, then a text. Can we talk about this like adults? I stared at the screen until it dimmed. Then I turned it face down beside my daughter's lunchbox. She didn't notice. She was arguing with the cartoon, spoon clinking against the bowl. At 10:11, an email came back from the principal's assistant. We can meet. Conference room B. Tomorrow at 2:45. Please bring any documentation. Both parents are expected. Expected. I read that word 3 times. Then I slid the printed invoice deeper into the folder and closed it with both hands, pressing down like I could flatten the mess into something manageable. My phone buzzed again, another message from him, but I didn't flip it over. I just sat there at the kitchen table, staring at the closed folder, knowing that tomorrow at 2:45 he wouldn't be able to keep this in the hallway anymore. Miss Lane? A voice called from behind the glass. I stood up so fast my chair legs scraped the tile. The sound cut through the front office like a cough. Conference room B was the same room they used for IEP meetings and volunteer trainings. Beige walls, a long table with a box of pens in the middle, a tiny bottle of hand sanitizer pushed up against a stack of blank forms. I wrapped my fingers around the door handle and pulled. Inside, the principal sat at the head of the table with a laptop open, screen angled like a shield. Miss Hart was to her right with a yellow legal pad. Across from them sat a woman from the front office I'd only ever seen behind the window, hair clipped back, visitor badges on a ring at her belt. A 4th chair sat empty beside mine, angled out like it was waiting for someone. You can sit here, the principal said, pointing with the end of a pen. I set my folder on the table instead of my lap. The manila was thick now, corners bent from being opened and closed. My phone stayed in my pocket. I could feel it there like a small, live thing. The door opened behind me. My ex walked in with the same smile he used at school concerts. He had a travel mug in his hand like he'd just come from a normal morning. He glanced at the empty chair and pulled it out. The legs screeched. He didn't apologize. Thanks for doing this, he said, voice smooth, and he looked at the principal like they were on the same team. I just want stability for our daughter. The principal nodded once. We want the same thing, she said. This meeting is about school boundaries and communication. My ex's eyes flicked to my folder. His smile tightened at the edges. The principal clicked something on her laptop. First, I'm going to read what was sent through Parent Square last night, she said, so we're all clear. Miss Hart's pen hovered over her pad. The principal read, word for word, in that calm voice administrators have when they're about to make a decision without asking how you feel about it. Effective immediately. All custody-related communication must be routed through the front office, she read. Staff members may not be contacted directly regarding family matters. My ex shifted in his seat. The travel mug thumped softly on the table when he set it down. That was just because he started, and he nodded toward me without looking directly at me. She spirals. She's been... The principal lifted a hand. Not rude, just final. We're not here to label anyone, she said. We're here to keep staff out of adult conflict. I didn't move. I kept my hands flat on the folder. The principal continued. Second, she said, we need to address third-party involvement on campus. My ex's jaw worked once. Third party, he repeated, like the phrase tasted bad. The front office woman reached to her side and pulled a printed sheet from a slim folder. It looked like the pickup sheet Miss Hart had held in the hallway on day one. Names, highlights, clean columns. We have volunteer procedures, the principal said. We have visitor procedures, and we have parent communication procedures. I slid my folder across the table. Not dramatic, just a steady push until it rested in front of the principal. She opened it. Paper shifted. The sound was loud in the quiet room. She looked at the top page, his text telling me not to contact the school, then flipped to the print shop invoice. Her eyebrows lifted a fraction. Miss. Hart leaned forward, just enough to see. Her pen finally touched the pad. The principal read the pickup line on the invoice out loud. Pickup name, Tara M. My ex laughed once, quick and sharp. That's nothing, he said. She helped. It's a community event. The principal didn't look up yet. She kept flipping. Receipt photo, order number, the teacher's email line. When she did look up, her voice stayed even. Mr. Lane, she said, is Tara M. an approved volunteer under our process? He opened his mouth, then shut it. His eyes flashed to mine, like he was waiting for me to jump in and make it personal. I didn't. My phone buzzed in my pocket, one bright, wrong notification sound. Miss Hart's eyes flicked down to my purse, then back up. I kept my hands still. The principal tapped the invoice with her pen. We will be updating our volunteer coordination, she said, and we will be documenting that school events are not a place to introduce new adult relationships as family without mutual parent awareness. My ex leaned forward, voice dropping. You can't tell me who my daughter's around. The principal's tone didn't change. We can control who represents themselves on campus, she said, and we can control how staff are involved. She slid a single page toward him, new boundaries, typed, ready to be signed. Both parents will route communication through the office, she said, and no third party will serve in a role that creates confusion for your child. My ex's hand hovered over the paper. His knuckles went white around his pen. I stayed quiet and watched him sign. When the meeting ended, I stood, fingers wrapping around the door handle again. As soon as I stepped into the hallway, I heard his chair scrape back hard behind me. Wait, he said. Too close now. You're not going to say anything? Wait, he said. Too close now. You're not going to say anything? We were still in the front office hallway, where the carpet runner always had little dark spots from wet shoes. The door to conference room B was behind me. The main entrance was to my left, glass panels showing the parking lot and a few parents still filtering in for late pickups. I kept my hand on the strap of my purse. My folder was tucked under my arm, edges bent from being opened too many times. He stepped into my space like he could block the hallway with his body. You walked in there like I'm some kind of... He stopped himself and looked past me, because people were watching. A mom I'd seen at the welcome table the night before stood at the office window, waiting for a visitor badge. A teacher walked by carrying a stack of laminated papers, and her steps slowed when she saw us. My ex lowered his voice. You did this on purpose. I didn't answer. I took my phone out of my purse and held it low between us, screen facing me. My thumb moved once, deliberate. No shaking, no flourish. He watched the motion anyway, like the phone was a weapon. The front office woman, Miss Delgado, came out from behind the glass with a clipboard in her hand. She stopped a few feet away, keeping her posture neutral, like she'd been trained for hallway storms. Mr. and Lane, she said, calm and clear, we need to update the pickup file today. He turned toward her too fast. We already handled it in there. This is the next step, she replied, and tapped the clipboard with her pen. It has to match the signed boundaries. A dad with a toddler on his hip stepped around us, eyes down, trying not to be part of it. The toddler's sneakers kicked softly against his leg as he passed. My ex smiled at Miss Delgado like charm could erase paper. Fine. Update whatever you want. Miss Delgado didn't smile back. We also need clarity on the volunteer coordinator contact, she said. The coordinator listed for family night will be changed. His jaw tightened. A teacher, Mrs. Keene, appeared at the edge of the hallway, holding a lanyard bundle against her chest. She didn't approach, she just watched. Face unreadable. My ex turned back to me, voice rising a notch. You hear this? You're messing with things that aren't your business. I have Telvin it. I looked at him. Then I looked down at my phone. I opened a photo. Not the picture itself, its info screen. A plain panel of details. Date, time, location. I held it up just enough that Miss Delgado could see the top line when she glanced over, and she did quick, professional, like she knew what she was looking at. My ex's eyes snapped to the screen. What is that? I didn't tell him. I didn't explain where I got it, or why it mattered, or how many nights I'd sat at my kitchen table lining up timestamps like puzzle pieces. Miss Delgado's face stayed steady, but her grip on the clipboard changed, tighter. She turned slightly, angling her body toward the office window like she was about to move this conversation back into procedure. Mr. Lane, she said, the record shows a mismatch between what was represented and what was documented. It is want and quote. My ex scoffed, loud enough that the mom at the window looked over. Record, he repeated, like it was a joke. Mrs. Keene set the lanyards down on a chair by the wall. The plastic sleeves made a soft slap against the seat. My ex looked around and realized too late that the hallway had become a stage. Not because I raised my voice, because he did. He leaned closer to me again, trying to pull it back into something private. Say it, he hissed. Tell them. Tell them what you think happened. Tell them your story. My phone stayed in my hand, screen still lit. The info panel didn't change. It didn't need to. Miss Hart stepped out of the conference room and came to stand beside Miss Delgado. 2 staff members now. 2 sets of eyes trained on him. Not me. Mr. Lane, Miss Hart said, this isn't about anyone's story. My ex's face flushed. He looked at me like he wanted me to save him from the quiet. I slid my phone back into my purse and closed it with one hand. The principal's assistant opened the office door and said, gently, like she was handing out a reminder slip, we'll send the updated contact list by end of day. My ex swallowed hard and nodded once, too stiff. Then a familiar voice floated down the hallway, one of the volunteer moms from the night before, trying to soften the air. Hey, she said, forcing a smile at all of us. It's been a long week, right? The updated contact list hit my inbox at 3:37 p.m. the next day. I was at my desk with a cold coffee and a pen cap between my fingers, twisting it on and off without thinking. The subject line looked like every other school email. Revised contact plus event procedures. Confirmation. I opened it anyway. 2 attachments. One was a PDF titled, Pickup, Emergency Contact Verified. The other was a short memo on school letterhead. I didn't read the memo first. I clicked the pickup sheet. My daughter's name was there in a neat row, my name, my ex's name, and under authorized adults, it didn't have any blanks filled with friend or helper or anything that could be argued into meaning family. No, Tara. No extra line. No wiggle room. I printed it at work, the paper sliding out warm, and folded it once down the middle like I needed it to fit in my life. At 3:12, I signed in at the front office with the chained pen again. Miss Delgado took my ID, checked the screen, and nodded once like we were completing a task. She didn't look tired. She looked done. My daughter came running down the hallway with her backpack bouncing, cheeks pink from recess air that hadn't fully left her system. "Mom," she said, and slammed into my side with the kind of hug that makes you brace your feet. I kissed the top of her head and felt her hair, still damp near the nape from the day. As we walked past the office window, I saw Tara. Not behind the glass, not at a table. Standing near the volunteer sign-in kiosk, with her lanyard in her hand, badge dangling loose like she hadn't decided whether to put it on. She looked up and saw us. Her smile started, then hesitated. My daughter's grip tightened on my hand for half a second, then loosened like she remembered she wasn't supposed to react. "Hey, sweetie," Tara said softly, trying for normal. My daughter didn't answer. She stared straight ahead at the exit doors. I didn't answer either. I shifted my folder against my hip and kept walking, my keys pressing into my palm. Behind us, I heard my ex's voice before I saw him. "Come on," he said, too loud for a hallway. "Don't do that." He stepped into view near the trophy case, jacket half-zipped, eyes already hard. He glanced at Tara, then at me, like he was trying to keep both of us in the same frame. Miss Hart appeared from her office doorway, legal pad tucked under her arm. She didn't speak. She just stood there, watching the way people watch when they're deciding whether they'll have to write something down. My ex put his hands up, palms out, like he was the reasonable one. "We're all trying to move forward," he said, voice smoothing out as soon as he noticed the receptionist looking up. "Right?" "For her." "For her," Tara echoed quietly, as if repeating the right phrase would make it true. My daughter's shoulders rose. Just a little. She kept her eyes on the exit, like the doors were a finish line. My phone buzzed in my purse. One message, then another. I didn't check them. My ex leaned toward me, lowering his voice like this was between adults now. "Are you happy?" he asked. "You got your little paperwork win. Can you stop now?" I looked at him. I looked at Tara's loose badge. I looked at Miss Hart's pen clipped to her lanyard, ready. I didn't give him a sentence he could take home and twist. I tightened my grip on my daughter's hand and walked. Door handle in your palm, you pull it shut, and the conversation ends outside. The air was cold and smelled like rain on asphalt. I guided my daughter to the car, buckled her in, and handed her the snack she'd been asking for since noon. The wrapper crackled in the quiet. When I got into the driver's seat, I pulled my phone out, saw his name on the lock screen, and set it face down in the cup holder. I started the engine and backed out slowly, letting the school shrink in the rearview mirror without looking back.